Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to Centurion's Review. This is Feudal from 3M Games. This is essentially a game that plays similar to chess. I've had this for years, I just haven't had a chance to try it or even open it up. Today's the first time I opened it up to even see what the contents looked like. Feudal, the exciting medieval war game, combines military strategy with chess-like moves as the armies of two feudal kings battle to the death. Each army is secretly deployed, making every game different and challenging. The rough and mountainous terrain can aid or hamper attempts to thwart the enemy or lay siege to their castle. It's for all ages and 2 to 6 players. That's pretty interesting because it's pretty rare you get a war game that can support up to 6 players. Alright, so this is one of these bookcase games. So I actually kind of like these boxes. These are kind of cool. Let's pull that section out and this section out. Here you have the game board. Essentially, you roll to see who goes first, and the person who didn't roll to go first sets up the game board. The guy who had this before me taped all the pieces together, but I could remove the tape and do it the right way, where I just set them up next to each other however I wish to create the battlefield. Oh, and as far as terrain, unlike chess, this has terrain. The dark green here is mountains. And this wavy terrain here is rough terrain, and everything else is just smooth terrain, I guess you would call it. Oh, let me leave this out to show you something. There's a divider screen here, and I'll show you the pieces to connect it to the board in a bit, but you'll set it up in the middle of the board like this so each player can set up without the other side seeing their setup, and then when you're ready to play the game, you remove this and reveal the forces. Let's go over the diagram of moves, since that's basically the whole game, or not the whole game, quite a bit of the rules. So a king can move 1 or 2 spaces horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. Mounted men move any number of space horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So that's a very useful. Those are very useful playing pieces. They consist of the prince, the duke, and the knights. And then you get sergeants who can move up to 12 spaces diagonally, or 1 space horizontally or vertically. Pikemen move up to 12 spaces horizontally or vertically and 1 space diagonally. Squire moves 1 space horizontally or vertically, followed by 1 space diagonally over vacant or occupied spaces. That's kind of interesting. And an archer moves up to 3 spaces horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. And when he shoots the first enemy in line of fire up to 3 spaces away, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, that's who he shoots at and kills. But he doesn't move onto a vacated space. And over here, it's got it reprinted here. One thing I like about this is chess, like, for example, if you have like a bishop or something, it can only move diagonally, but in this, you have the sergeant, which can move diagonally any amount it wants, but you can also move horizontally and vertically. But if you do, it's just 1 space. So most of the playing pieces have a good range of movement. All right, before we go to the rules here, let's look at the playing pieces. Here's your castles here. There's a castle here. And over here is like the castle grounds. If you're going to take the castle, you have to go onto the castle grounds first, and then on the next turn, jump onto the castle to take it. And let me empty out some more guys so you can see them. So here's an entire army right here along with your castle. So the components for this game are actually good. I don't particularly like the way the board looks. I mean, having the pegs, I guess, I don't mind having the pegs. I guess that's okay. It's just that I thought the terrain, that could have made it a little bit more visually appealing, but I'm sure it's functional. Alright, let's take a look at the rule book. Here it gives some fluff on why the 2 sides are fighting. And here it's showing how to set up the battlefield. You set it up however you want it, and then you put the screen and the holders here and put it in the middle and set up your forces. And the rules for the 2-player games are this and up to here, and that's it. That's all the whole rules. And it's talking about mounted and rough terrain. You got to check the rules for mounted men and footmen for restrictions regarding positioning in those areas, because there's terrain effects in this. Castle can be placed on any terrain, but if it's placed on a mountain, it nullifies the mountain. Mounted men can't be positioned on or across mountains or rough terrain, but they can cross valleys between mountains and rough terrain. Footmen can't be placed across mountains. So then, as far as playing, you basically move your forces, and if they're able to move to an enemy unit and move on top of it, that enemy unit is destroyed. The only exception to that is the archers. The archers actually have a ranged attack. But it's just a game of positioning. There's not much rules or anything. Oh, and also the game ends when the opponent's castle is captured or when all his royalty has been slain. Royalty being, I believe, the king, prince, duke, and knights, possibly. And that's basically it. Here it's got some example setups if it's your first time playing the game, so you have a good idea how to set up. Here's for the four army game, which you can use with 2, 3, or 4 players. And it's got some variations here for 2 players and 4 players, but I'm glad I finally opened this up. I've had this forever, and I just never got a chance to even open it up and look at it. I actually do want to play this. It looks like it'll be really easy to get into. I'm not much of a chess player, but this looks much more interesting than chess. The thing I don't like about regular chess is there's no fog of war, so if you move into a position where you can capture a piece, you always capture it 100% of the time. And it looks like this game still has, it's like chess in that matter, in that you automatically destroy a piece if you move on top of it, or if you're an archer and you get in range. There's no die roll for fog of war or anything, but yeah, like I said, I'll try it and see how it is. Thanks for watching, and if you've tried, and I'm sure plenty of you have, because this was actually sold quite a few copies over the years, chime in and let us know what you thought of it. Have a good evening.